Finally arriving on this side of the world, Nick International's The Twisted Timeline of Sammy and Raj mixes together a lot of creative influences. It's not every day we see a co-production involving India get a global stage. But are these two cousins and their time-altering apps so good you'll want to replay, or is it only worth hitting fast-forward past them? I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television, and it's about time for a cartoon review. I've explored international cartoons from Canada, Europe, and even Australia before, but it's not every day you see India involved in anime production. India is home to a vibrant media industry, from Bollywood blockbusters to captivating serials, comedy, and drama. And catering to diverse audience tastes in all the national and local languages sure isn't easy. Somewhat naturally, this has extended to kids' TV, with local production of cartoons exploding over the past 10 to 15 years. Local animation has become so prominent within the Indian kids' TV market that even the Indian versions of the US Big 3 kids channels devote most or all of their schedules to it, with the American fare you'd normally expect of their namesakes pushed off to specialized side channels. You wouldn't know any of that, though, from the heavy American slant of online kids' TV discussion, too unwilling to take anything from north of the border seriously, never mind a series from half a world away. And so the likes of Motlu Patlu, Chota Beam, and Lamput are treated as the butt of jokes about weird foreign cartoons, if they're ever brought up at all, and the gasps for breath between arguments over which Disney Channel cartoon is the most ambitious storyline right now. Spoiler alert, it's none of them. We had it way better like 10 years ago. But as regular viewers of my channel already know, I've proven in review after review that there's plenty to love from beyond our star-spangled shores. And ignoring international kids' TV means missing out on some great creations that have no trouble holding their own when taking on the world. While I'm not that well versed on South Asia's powerhouses, I'm always up for finding something new from somewhere unexpected. And so that brings us to The Twisted Timeline of Sammy and Raj, which we first caught wind of in the fall of 2020. It's the first co-production between Nickelodeon's international division and Nickelodeon India, which is owned by Paramount's joint venture with local broadcaster Network 18, the media arm of Indian mega conglomerate Reliance Industries. The show explores the life of two Indian-American cousins who wield a time travel phone app that allows them to pause, rewind, and fast-forward into some wacky hijinks with their friends, neighbors, and their big, multi-generational extended family. The Stars and Stripes weren't just added on for the sake of perceived saleability. The show was an international effort, being animated in India, voiced from the US, and featuring US and UK writers, with an Indian filmmaker serving as a cultural consultant to ensure everything translated accurately on screen. You'll certainly see and feel the mixture of styles and cultures at play, as it marries Indian culture, values, and holidays with universally accessible slice-of-life struggles, managing to always keep the distinct tastes of Eastern and Western audiences in mind throughout. The show premiered first on Nickelodeon UK in early January of 2023, before making the rounds on other Nick International feeds throughout last year. Unfortunately, it'll be tough to support this show stateside, as while Nick US has picked it up, they've decided to shuffle it off to Nicktoons, with episodes airing exclusively on that channel since January 15th, 2024, originally in a 9 p.m. time slot. That means the show's 20 half hours will be resigned to a strip premiere burn-off, and the late time slot and lower reach of Nicktoons means they'll live and die pretty much unnoticed by kids' TV viewers. Further emphasizing that fact, a few weeks into its run, in mid-February 2024, the show was shunted upward into an 8 a.m. premiere slot, as if its quiet, unwatched demise wasn't guaranteed enough. But its American invisibility doesn't mean we shouldn't take some time to check it out. Is The Twisted Timeline a straight-up star, or just a jumbled mess? Let's hit play and see for ourselves. The first scene of the show's first episode, Birthday Do-Over, actually serves as quite a nice introduction to the vibes of our title leads. Though maybe this is better seen in hindsight, I have seen most of the series by this point. Sammy's smart, though nerdy, but shirks the lack of adventurousness that tends to come with that. His cousin Raj shoots confetti cans first and asks questions later. Aside from his cousin scaring him half to death, Sammy has reason to be excited. He's planning what he hopes to be his most epic birthday ever, after years of underwhelming family affairs. Video games, trampoline basketball, more pizza and ice cream than is physically possible to put in one place. The family's plans for the day seem to be getting in the way, though, and the cousins work to divert them and set up their extreme bash, only for it to end up a little too out of control, turning best laid plans into a sucky disaster. And in the end,
Are these samosas? You should have served this today, Sammy.
I should have?
their friends actually liked what their family was planning. So Sammy and Raj rewind time to unscrew their screw-up and let their family in on something that ends up not being embarrassing after all. This first episode manages to do a lot of things and handles them pretty well. It sets up the series' premise and introduces almost every character we see on the show, the cousins, their family, and their friends, and introduces the show's appealing mix of sensibilities, all in a well-paced and solidly executed 10 minutes. It's an opener without having to be defined by the plot as one, which can be a challenging procedural choice to do, but they pull it off really smoothly. While Sammy and Raj are this cartoon's title leads, it really shines through a tight-knit ensemble cast, who managed to get a lot of exposition along the way over the course of this show's relatively short episode order. The big, multi-generational family adds to the feeling, but that spirit also carries over to the pair's friends and everyone else they meet along the way. And on that note, while we're talking about other characters, shout out to Sammy's younger sister Tara, who is just a pure, remorseless menace in a full-send kind of way that you can't help but respect, even in spite of being so frequently thwarted. And this isn't that kind of gloomy, dead-in-the-eyes adult procedural thing either. This is a very active and aware kind of menacing that's hard to find a parallel for. To say she gives off future subject of serial killer true crime podcasts in another life energy doesn't even feel accurate enough of a description. Like, this is very raw and real and super close to the chest. Like, you see to believe it kind of stuff. Generally, the Twisted Timeline wears its morals on its sleeve, at least in the back 2 minutes of each episode, but it always finds a unique and interesting way to get there. Neither the plots themselves or the time-controlling app as a creative device ever feels forced or phoned in, and they never lean on lazy stereotypes to make their point. Even the few times they do tap into a well-worn trope, they build around it such that it feels fresh and unique. Not to mention that they don't play around with getting stakes involved. On multiple occasions, the phone itself is in danger, and the show lets the kids live with that, at least for a little bit. Status quo reigns in the end, but not in such an absolute way that they're scared to screw around with it. Visually, the show features an appealing modern art direction that isn't overly stylized, but still punches its weight with the best of episodic we've seen in the last 10 to 15 years. It's not high art to pick apart, but as on a lot of cartoons, especially international ones, being able to stand up to that kind of frame-by-frame dissection was never on the agenda. It looks nice, it animates well, that's kind of all it needs to do. One of the more under-the-radar things that I appreciate about this show is just how well they've pulled off this cartoon as a celebration of Indian culture. I don't have any heritage from the area, so I can't speak to whether it serves well as representation, but it's unmistakable there's a lot of cultural appreciation that went into this show. The creatives involved went to great lengths to not only introduce concepts that many international viewers wouldn't be familiar with, but to do so in a positive, respectful way that, while it may not necessarily reflect lived reality in some parts of the world, opens the door to a deeper understanding that is rarely offered in media. It probably wasn't too hard to tap into, given some of the creatives involved would have local knowledge, but outside of the subcontinent and its diaspora, it is still very novel. Something else I found this show uncannily good at, and this just might be something esoteric in me talking, is nailing that sense of subtle othering towards the white characters in the series. I'm about to go on a tangent for a moment, but stay with me here. This is just my American perspective coming out here, I think. The US is a highly racialized society where, despite our efforts at embracing multiculturalism, a lot of society, and by extension a lot of media as a reflection of that society, still treats their perspective of Caucasian Americans as a universally applicable experience. In a lot of that media, it feels like people of color sometimes are, intentionally or not, inserted into roles in such a way that they're on the outside of that dynamic looking in. Now, there are a lot of shows that focus on communities of color and their perspectives too, but oftentimes they're looking to express specific experiences that, while they do share a commonality within that in-group, they may not be as relatable to those who are outside of that cultural context. And being both autistic and biracial, I live outside a lot of cultural contexts all of the time. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but I bring that up because the thing that the twisted timeline of Sammy and Raj somehow manages to do is to marry that universality to a non-white perspective, which is something that basically is unheard of in the realm of television that comes to American shores. This is probably less of a big deal somewhere outside the North American European media axis, where there isn't necessarily that same pervasive sense of reinforcing monoculture, and where cultural plurality is far more entrenched for one reason or another. But the part of the world in which I reside, and which a lot of you watching this likely reside too, has never really seen that dynamic subverted, much less dismantled. I don't share an identity with these protagonists in any way, really, and yet I still feel welcomed into their home, into their culture, and into their lives as if it were as familiar as my own. I don't know how they pulled that off, but I really appreciate that they did that. At least for me, it adds something that improves the show without having to be intentionally overt about it, and risk sliding into that specific experiences for specific people box in the process. The Twisted Timeline of Sammy and Raj is hands down simply a show that deserves every minute you give it. It's a fun, episodic cartoon that doesn't waste a moment, even though the whole premise centers around scrubbing through them. The multinational, multicultural team behind this have put together one of the most unique shows we've seen in recent years, crafting something distinctively fresh and utterly fun to watch. Now, if only Nick US didn't keep them on pause for a year. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to catch more reviews like this. Sammy and Raj aren't the only foreign cartoon from an unusual locale as of late. Denmark's recently given us the must-watch fun of monster-loving maniacs. My review of that is up here or down in the description. You can support these videos directly for $3 a month at links on benzie.tk/join. I'll see you next time.